Hi, everybody, and welcome to Observing with Webb for August of 2016. This August is going to be pretty cool because not only do we have our normal Perseid meteor shower, which is always a good one, barring the moon sometimes, but we've got the Perseid meteor shower. We've got all five planets visible, at least in the beginning of the month, if you have binoculars. And we also have two close encounters with planets that should really be pretty cool to look at. So I'm going to show you what that looks like over here on the computer. And I'm going to go over the planets that we can see in two big clusters. And then I'm going to talk about the events, including the meteor shower. And if you're wondering about the occultation, I'm not going to go over the occultation of Aldebaran, so you'll have to look that up yourself. But I'm going to go over some of the other stuff. So anyway, planets. What are you going to see with your naked eye? Well, if you take a look, let me put this back to August 1st, and I'm going to go to sunset. And what you notice over here in the west is a nice conglomeration of Mercury, Venus, and Jupiter. Okay, now this is the one cluster of three planets that you can see after sunset. So Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter. Now Venus is going to be pretty bright. It's the brightest one out there. Has a very high magnitude. But it's still going to be hard to see because it's close to the sun. It's still dusk. The very beginning of dusk when you might be able to see it. Mercury is going to be very dim comparatively. You're probably not going to be able to see it with your naked eye, but you might for the first half of the month. And then there's Jupiter up here, which is kind of in between in brightness, but it's brighter. You should be able to see it with your naked eye, no problem. So, what's going to happen throughout the month with these planets? Let's take a look. So let's just go at 8:20 p.m. And as we fast forward through the days, each day, ignore the moon for now, each day Jupiter gets a little bit closer, and Venus and Mercury, it's a little bit darker at 8:20, and they're about the same, maybe a little bit lower in the sky. Let me change sunset. There we go, at sunset. They're a little higher in the sky. And what you'll notice is that Jupiter is creeping in a good bit, okay? Or let me back up to the 10th real quick. On the 10th, I like the 10th because Mercury is almost right in the middle between Jupiter and Venus. So it should be easier to find Mercury since you know exactly where it's going to be. But Jupiter keeps getting closer and closer throughout the month. And let's see, I have it written down. Yeah, right around the 22nd, they form a nice triangle down there in the western horizon. Again, Mercury is going to be tough because it's dim and low. Venus and Jupiter will be much, much easier because they'll be higher and brighter. And on the 27th, and I'll just get this out of the way right now, Jupiter and Venus are really, really close together. I don't think I've seen them this close together before. But let's see. On the 26th, Jupiter and Venus are over here. And then on the next day, they are much, much closer. In fact, so close that you should be able to get Venus and Jupiter in the same telescope eyepiece, in the same view. Okay? Now, let me see if I can center on Jupiter there. Okay? Now, the problem is going to be, with taking a picture, Venus is going to be much, much brighter than Jupiter. So I'm guessing if you try to take pictures of this through your telescope, if you want to get surface features of Jupiter, you're not going to see the moons, and Venus will be super, super bright. Okay, but hey, I don't know. I'm not a great astrophotographer. Lane is. So Lane, here's your challenge: get a good picture. Okay, but anyway, that's the closest I've seen them. It's less than 1/10 of a degree apart. Get your binoculars out. Your eye is going to be able to see much more than the camera in a sense, at least just looking. You should be able to see both Venus and Jupiter, although Venus will still be very bright. Your eyes adjust for contrast a lot better than a camera does. So anyway, those are the planets off in the west. Okay? Pretty much after that, you can't see Venus or Jupiter for a little while. All right? On the other side, well, sort of other side, at least in the west, let me go back to the first. If you're looking for planets, let's go a little bit later. Let's say we go to 9 o'clock. After you've looked at those western ones, you'll see Saturn and Mars up here. Okay, and so you'll see also the bright star Antares down here. Okay, Saturn's up here, Mars is over here, and let me zoom in a bit. Okay, so off in the west, you'll be able to see these guys, and what you'll notice, let me center on Antares. There you go. Okay, what you'll notice is as you go along, okay, they start off on the first, about 11 degrees apart. What you'll notice is that Saturn sort of overtakes Mars, or really, as I'm seeing now, Mars is sort of invading in between Saturn and Antares. What you'll see is they keep getting closer and closer together, okay, until the 23rd and the 24th. Now, this is a great event as well. On the 23rd and the 24th, 23rd, 24th, 23rd, 24th, you'll notice that Saturn, Mars, and Antares make a nice, neat line. And this is about the time when they get as close to each other as they will, at least for this pass. They're about 4 degrees apart there. It's 4 pinky widths, or probably about, if you hold 3 fingers up like this, a little less than that. But at the end of the month, Mars will have trekked through and now is on the opposite side. Okay, and they're about, I think, 5 degrees apart at that point. But they're still out there, still looking really cool. So if we rewind, fast forward. Okay. All right, so those are the planets. Oh, by the way, Mars and Saturn, you'll be able to see them all the way to about 11:30. Okay, you won't be able to see them after that. So if you want to look at planets, get out before 11:30. But let's go back to some events. Okay. And on the 2nd of August is the new moon. That means that the moon is not visible at all from our perspective. It's over by the sun down here. And as we know, the moon is going to start becoming a waxing crescent after that. Now let's go back here to the Venus, Mercury, Jupiter area. And what you'll see is on August 4th, Mercury and the moon will be close together, close encounter. It'll be tough to see again because Mercury is dim and the moon is super dim as well. But if you have binoculars, a nice good view of the western horizon, I think you can see that, and I think it'll be pretty cool. The moon is probably easier than Mercury. Yeah, it's definitely easier than Mercury to see there. Okay. But the next day, on the 5th, the waxing crescent moon is a little bit thicker, a little bit higher, and it's closer to Jupiter. I believe they are only about 2 degrees apart, and they set around 9:30 p.m. So if you are looking for Jupiter and Mercury and you've been having trouble, look on the 4th for the moon and Mercury will be nearby, and look on the 5th for the moon and Jupiter will be nearby. The moon is a great guidepost in that sense. Okay? Now, as if you're in the AELC and watching this, you'll know that the moon gets thicker and thicker and higher in the sky until the 10th, which is when you have the first quarter moon. That means that the right side is visible. It's up there for until about midnight, let's say. Let me move to 9 o'clock. And you'll notice it's starting to get closer to Saturn and Mars. And the other close encounter with the moon is this one on the 11th and 12th. And as you can see, the moon makes a nice triangle with Mars and Saturn. Remember, Mars is going to be that reddish one down below. Saturn is going to be more cream colored and to the left. And you can also include Antares in this, and you see that they make a pretty cool diamond looking shape in the sky if you include Antares. Then on the next night, August 12th, you've got Mars, Saturn, and the moon making almost a straight line in the night sky, which is pretty neat as well. Let's see. Moving on from there, the 12th and the 13th. That is the Perseid meteor shower. Now, what's going on with the Perseid meteor shower? Tough luck, there's a gibbous moon, so we won't get any sunset watching. Or evening watching. We have to go to the early morning. Now, where do you look? First of all, well, you got to look really you want to look at the entire sky, but you kind of want to look north in the northeast direction, because the northeast direction, remember the moon's still up, so we got to wait until about midnight. And after midnight, you're going to start seeing Perseus over here, that constellation rising. Now, you don't want to look right at Perseus, but you want to look around at the whole sky, because that's the radiant. That's where the meteors will be coming from, or appear to be coming from, based on our orbit. Okay, so you want to be looking at the whole sky. All right. Now, is this going to be a good year for the Perseids? Let me explain again. This should be a really good one, because the astrophysicists are saying that count of 60 to 90, that's a really good count for meteors. But 60 to 90 meteors per hour, it will probably be even higher this year. Why? I'm just going to say there's some issues with Jupiter and its gravitational pull in the orbit of the comet Swift-Tuttle. Remember, what you're really seeing with a meteor is the debris from Comet Swift-Tuttle moving and hitting the Earth at, 37 miles per second. That's why they crash into the atmosphere, crush the air in front of it, heat up the air, heat up itself, and burn in the atmosphere, because it's hitting air at 37 miles per second. Anyway, with the orbit of Earth, with the orbit of the comet, with the orbit of Jupiter, they interact sometimes, and Jupiter will sort of mess up and sort of give us a little extra boost, or give the comet material an extra boost. I bet you Dave will have a better explanation of that, but I just say blame Jupiter and you're good. So anyway, they're saying it could be more than that. It's probably going to be more than that, and in fact could be even double if everything holds true. But we know how astronomers sometimes inflate expectations. Anyway, other advice for this, make sure you find a dark location. That's probably your key here. Because if you can get away from general light pollution, away from cities, that's a really good first step. If you can't do that, then at least get away from the local light pollution. Make sure there's no street lights nearby. Make sure there's no house lights nearby. Find the most shady area in your house or in your development or anywhere. Don't go near a neighbor's house unless they know. Okay, similar rules to Pokemon Go. Okay, but what you're going to do is find a dark spot, let your eyes adapt, get like a swimming pool floaty or some sort of chair that you can just sit on and just look at the sky the entire night. And check the weather. Before you even do that, check the weather to make sure. Scattered storms, not usually a big deal because they come and go, but the long periods of rain and clouds, not a good idea. So check the weather. Also, get out there after midnight. You might actually see. Just because you can't go out after midnight doesn't mean you won't see some of these. It is active from about mid-July to late August, so you might actually see some Perseids here and there. Okay, and also you can go to Sky and Telescope or the International Meteor Organization to find some ways to actually do a meteor count if you actually want to help with citizen science, which is pretty cool. Anyway, that's the Perseid meteor shower. I know not much to show on the screen, but you know, yeah, so that's the 14th. Let's move on. Let me go back and look south, and see, we're looking at midnight. So to the 18th. 18th is the full moon. That means the moon is visible all night and is fully lit up, and not much happens until the 23rd and the 24th, and we already went over that. On the 23rd and 24th, let me rewind, you'll see Saturn and Mars in the south, sort of lining up with Antares. And then the last quarter moon is on the 24th. That's when the left half of the moon is lit up. Let me fast forward time. The left half of the moon is lit up. Doesn't rise until about midnight, 1 a.m. and is visible into the morning. And then also on the 27th, like we said before, let's go back to sunset. On the 27th, let's look in the west. that's when you find Venus and Jupiter super duper close together. Yeah, so that's what's going on for August. Last thing that I'll leave you with is a quick look at some constellations. Oh, I'm at 15 minutes, so I think I might skip that, other than to say, if you look past 9 o'clock and you're looking at Saturn and Mars, you can also take some time and take a look at this area up here, especially those of you with binoculars or a telescope. Sagittarius, find that teapot part of Sagittarius, and you can find plenty of naked eye or binocular targets, such as the Butterfly Cluster, that's pretty bright, the Lagoon Nebula, the Trifid Nebula. You might see the Eagle Nebula. That's a little darker. M23, M25 is a good one. That's an open cluster. Lots of really cool stuff in that area, because that's the part of the galaxy that's the center of the galaxy that we're looking at. So there are a lot more interesting things at that end. So anyway, with that, I wish you guys all very clear, dark skies, especially for the Perseid meteor shower, but for the month of August.